It's interesting that you say democracy is a factor that has contributed to decay that we have currently. How will be the question?
Should I explain this? Under the military, perhaps because of that consciousness of force, because of that consciousness of no room for dialogue, no room for failure, no room for mistakes, corruption was not an issue. It wasn't something that was being discussed. Now, wasn't
that because people used the courts less?
No, people were using the courts. Because I still remember some of those cases. Obeya Memorial, the famous injunction case. It was under the military. Ganifa immediately, a number of cases. Some of the principles that we're relying on today were principles enunciated under the military. So then there was a bit of checks and balances under the military. Now, soon after the process was now democratized, it was like there was no longer caution. The arm that is expected to play the role of the watchdog, because under the military, the executive was, you could see, was either the governor and the, what were they called then? The Supreme Military Council, or you had that in place. So the executive was more like a military officer and his colleagues serving as a watchdog on the judiciary. Any complaint that comes as a result of corruption, it wasn't something to even be discussed at that particular time. Again, the economy was also not as bad as it is now. The economy was not as bad as it is now. The economy then was, at least it was fair. I still remember when I was in school, the amount of money that you have and the things that you could do with what you had then.
I'm quite sure
and the country wasn't as large as it is now.
I'm quite sure when you were in school, just allow me to bring this in, that people hardly recognize or see judges outside.
Exactly.
You know, but what's the case today? Because we've seen some people even come on this program to say, well, you see them fraternize with loads and loads of people, social engagements, and it gives rooms for people to get to meet them and even maybe possibly influence them.
You see, with development comes with all of this. In the past, the society was not as large as it is now. You went to school with some of these chaps. A number of things have not happened. That consciousness, that discipline that the judges of old were subjected to, unfortunately, you don't see that now happening, because even the process of training, that is not taken into consideration any longer. You don't have a situation where judges are now being cautioned that, look, you cannot be seen in social circles. Even if you have friends, you limit it. Because at least I remember growing up as a child, I had uncles who were on the bench. If you go to their homes, when their colleagues, their fellow judges come, you don't see the judges. They had their own entrance. There's a sitting room that is confined for them, specifically for that purpose. So they go into the living area and they sit down, they discuss. You don't even see them. If you stray into the place, you just see complete strangers sitting down, fraternizing with themselves. You don't see members of the public there.
But wasn't there pressure at the time from society?
I doubt that. Because there was a consciousness of ensuring what you call egalitarian society, and then there was also this aristocratic thing about our society then. But along the line, we lost such values.
Would you also say that it's so much as the economy going bad, or that, you know, at some point it seems there was an explosion of wealth in government, and it seems that the judges couldn't be left out of it?
No, it was more of the economy going bad. It was more of the economy going bad.
Tell us about the role of, you know, of lawyers and the role they have played in, you know, in corrupting the judges, because some people say that the fees that lawyers charge are truly exorbitant, and that you know, some of them can actually afford to pay the judges pretty easily.
I wouldn't say that it's as a result of the fees that the lawyers are being paid that is exorbitant. A lawyer is as good as his brief. A lawyer can charge whatever he wants to charge. It is up to the client to pay. But the question oftentimes is this: having charged the fee, what do you do with the money? Do you charge a fee, taking into cognizance the need to also factor in the judge? And that's where the problem is. You know, and I want to believe that that's exactly where you're going. I won't you can't charge a client. I remember a particular judge now who is late. In order to ensure that he maintained a posture of integrity, honesty, sincerity, and openness, he says in open court to the litigants in court that if your lawyer says to you, let me go in and see my lord, please make sure you come in with him. do not allow your lawyer to come to see me alone. And he now explained why he was saying so. He said a situation where a lawyer says to his client, I want to go and give the judge money, and has collected money from the litigants. Perhaps the judge is his friend. He just goes in, oh, how are you, Chamberlain, and then he steps out. Sorted. You understand that? Now, what is the perception of the litigant? Oh, my lawyer has given the judge money. Meanwhile, nothing like that happened.
Wow.
So these are also perceptions. And so the client is going to walk away from the judicial territory or premises believing that the justice of that particular matter has been paid for. Meanwhile, nothing like that happened. But then the kite is not taken out.
But wouldn't you say that democracy has made lawyers very wealthy?
Will I say that? I would just simply say the development in the system has also contributed to our ability to live fairly well.
Let's look at this other development before you go. Lagos State Parks and Garden Law. They've enacted that law.
Yes.
And we talked about it in our opening sequence, and people are tweeting about it already, where you can be fined 50,000 or 1 year imprisonment or 250,000 if you did not beautify your perimeter or your premises. What do you think about that?
Well, for me, I think, you know, I'm old school. I grew up here. I was born in Lagos. I knew what Lagos was like many years ago. And for me, I welcome that development. There's a need, beyond beautification, there's a need for us to imbibe the culture of cleanliness. The environment is filthy. You go outside this country and you see the way things are in other climes, and you ask yourself, what is wrong with us as a people? We are dirty. Some years back, Lagos Island was beautiful. You had trees. I could walk from my house in Ilubiri to our church, our Saviour's church, under the trees. It was beautiful. We had gardens, places that you could go to relax. All that's gone. So if there's a consciousness now to beautify Lagos, it is a welcome development. So the government is now imposing some duty on us to ensure that we also maintain a clean environment. And I think it's a welcome. I wouldn't question the law as it is. It's something that should be put in place.
Yeah, but what about the 1 year imprisonment?
But it's just that, you know, with if you want to enforce the law, it must come with some sanctions. It's not as if there's also an option of a fine. Is it that you go to a prison or you pay the fine? I don't think I won't question it. It's something that should be done.
Okay, because the spaces in the prisons, 40,000 awaiting trial mates.
No, but with the new law in Lagos, you don't necessarily have to go to a prison. There are a number of things that you can also do.